Hello everyone from my side. I'm also, I have to say, very happy, as Caroline already told you, to be here and to present you part of my work. So what I thought is that I'm gonna present you a bit the general ideas of the lecture and how it went, and then I'm gonna try to be not too long, really succinct, but then open the floor for any type of questions and discussion. I'm going to present you a lecture that we had in the last spring semester that was called Agroecologists Without Border. When I say we, it's going to be mostly my colleague, Ben Wild, that is now a postdoc and a researcher in a project that is called RUNRES, and I'm going to dive a bit more into RUNRES later. He also did his PhD in the Sustainable Agroecosystems Group in ETH, mostly on nitrified urine fertilizer using transdisciplinary approaches. And me, so I'm currently kind of a postdoc, but mostly a lecturer and an outreach coordinator in the same group, the Sustainable Agroecosystem Group in ETH. And I did my PhD more on food system resilience with the system dynamics modeling. The lecture that we organized was a seminar of 2 credits. So basically it was 2 hours per week. 45 minutes, so twice 45 minutes, roughly an hour and a half. And because it was the whole COVID situation, obviously it was all online. The way we opened the class for agricultural and environmental system master students. And basically, just for you also to have an overview, it was graded, a graded semester performance with basically a 20% of the grade. That was more like an individual type of participation and question for the guest speakers. I have to say that in the beginning, as I invited a lot of guest speakers, I was a bit scared that a student would be very silent. So that's the reason why I put that a bit as an incentive. But then most of it was the group project. And here I'm going to dive a bit more into that later. The way we set our learning objectives for this lecture was that we really wanted students to analyze one concrete example of an agricultural research project that we had. The idea was to make sure that they broaden a bit their understanding of all the environmental and social economical challenges within this research project. We wanted as well students to be able to engage in a positive but also empowering framework that would motivate also their critical reflection and also their action regarding the type of ways to transform our food systems. One thing that was important was for them to articulate via creative ways the complexity and the challenges within agricultural development interventions. And ultimately, one of the main goals, and that was a bit the topic of the group exercise, was to develop science communication skills and produce science communication toolkits for the particular case study that we chose. Here, the class was called, and we wanted them obviously to dig a bit more into project management skills, so give them a bit of responsibility on how they would articulate all of that. The class was called Agroecologists Without Borders, so we really set our class in the we use the FAO framework for agroecology just as a guider, not per se as the only way to look at agroecology, but at least it was enabling us to dig a bit more into several key topics that was approached, such as recycling, synergies, diversity, and specifically the co-creation and sharing of knowledge. We also wanted people, students to dive into cooperative thinking, to have also a system thinking type of approach, where their critical thinking would be stimulated and their creativity through the communication of our research. Another key aspect of it was the co-production of knowledge, and we wanted them to really realize that one solution does not fit all. So really try to contextualize where they stood, have a bit at least the acknowledgement that there are many ways to look at one problem and ways to approach it. And then we really wanted them to approach it with a kind of a goal-oriented practice, knowing that the whole process was super iterative. So there was a lot of interaction, and I'm going to explain also how we try to do it specifically online. Now, just to present you also roughly what was the case study that we decided to pick. It was called, it's coming from a project within our group that is called RUNRES, so more specifically the Rural-Urban Nexus, trying to establish a nutrient loop and improve the city region food system resilience. It's a project that is happening in several countries, be it Ethiopia, Rwanda, DRC, and also South Africa. And it's a project that is based on transdisciplinary approaches. So even though in ETH we're the steering committee coordinating all of it, there is it's a project that is funded by SDC. That's the reason why you see it here. And basically here we will like work really closely with each of those institutes in order to generate a dialogue and to dig into innovative practices to enhance this resilience that I've been saying. So basically, instead of thinking about the food system from a very linear perspective, what we try in that project is really to engage in a loop type of thinking. So how to implement innovations that could be from I don't know, using black soldier fly for composting organic waste and feeding poultry to actually collect wastewater and derive urine to create nutrified fertilizers. So several different innovations that approaching it through the angle of theory of change would ultimately establish a circular economy for a resilient city in that food system. And so basically here my colleagues really engage with with a wide range of stakeholders in those different spaces. And the idea is really that those stakeholders were the one empowered and able to pick the innovation that was interesting for them and that they would like to implement. And then now slowly we're trying to monitor it, and we try to implement it and develop as well entrepreneurial potential so that this project ultimately stands alone. For our lecture, what we decided is to focus on one particular innovation that was picked by the South African consortium, and that was the DWATS, which is a decentralized wastewater system. And so here the idea is that, as I said, we focused on the municipality of Misunduzi in South Africa. And from this decentralized wastewater treatment system, the idea was to install it in a school with urine diversion toilets to enable the treatment to happen. And then from the effluent of the treatment, who would be urine fertilizer, the idea was to install a nursery that would enable to grow some flowers and for the market. And then ultimately this would be held by some women and youth within the community. That would be also kind of the relatives of the school kids from the school where this urine diversion toilet would be installed, and the DWAT system as well. So here you have a bit an idea of the loop that is implemented. So this is really like the RUNRES project, but I thought it was interesting for you to know a bit where was it coming from, because basically for a lecture, what we took is this particular case, this particular innovation, and we asked the student to develop scientific communication material for the RUNRES case. And here we split it in kind of several groups. Some of our students would have their target audience as the school kids. Some others would have the school community, so it's more the teachers and also the staff of the school. And other groups would focus on municipal residents. So as I said, like the community and potentially even the people from the nursery or the market. And in there, I wanted the students to have a particular focus because otherwise it would have been too broad. So they was also able to choose either plant nutrition and everything that has to do with the fertilizer and the particularity of it being from wastewater, from urine. Others were focusing on sanitation, and ultimately some were focusing more on what we call human-environment relationship. That was more of a general way to tackle a bit what was happening with the nurseries and the riparian, so on and so. Then the way we split, like, so our seminar was a mixture between lectures and exercises. For our lectures, we really took advantage of the fact that it was online to invite a wide range of speakers, from the one that were already well involved in this RUNRES project. So Ndota Zondo, who is the project manager of the RUNRES project in South Africa, was actually not only a guest speaker, but was also like a key supporter of this lecture, as he was also mobilizing the stakeholders there in South Africa. And now we're collaborating with him so that he becomes the third kind of lecturer for next semester. And so we had also lecturers from the KwaZulu-Natal University that were also trying to set a bit the base for the context-based analysis. And then other type of guest lectures, such as Professor Johanna Jacobi, that was talking much more about political ecologies. We also had Professor Mena Barreto, George, and Margot Schwab when it came to the approach regarding socially engaged art for agroecological transition, and they really like provided a very different insight of how to tackle a project on agroecology. Then we also had Dr. Kuna from the University of KwaZulu-Natal as well, with her expertise on biodiversity. And ultimately, we also had some insight of farmers extension, farmer communication program coming from Shruti Patel and Martin Herren from the BioVision Foundation. I don't know if you're familiar with it. But yes, ultimately, like the program of the lecture was really like dynamic in the sense that we had the lectures, but we also had several exercise sessions. And within those exercise sessions, we really also try to engage the students within an iterative process. And so we had also students from the University of KwaZulu-Natal, 2 students that were assigned as coach. So they were here to engage in the group discussion, and they were also like mentors and content critiques of the group work of our students in ETH, so that there is really something kind of circular but also participative that could happen out of it. This is again how the lecture happened. So it was a 14 weeks lecture. We don't have to dive too much into that, but if you're interested, then I can obviously share the syllabus with you later. When it came to the exercise, we used some online tools such as Miro. You might be already familiar with that. So basically what we developed was a big Miro board that I called, and the idea was there to have a communitarian kind of collect of information, so the students could take notes, put references, and all of that was available for the whole classroom. So the idea was really to visualize the challenge, the impact, stakeholders, and have a bit like this big board that everyone can get access to while they're doing their group work. Then we had our own ETH platform, that is Moodle, where I uploaded a lot of readings and a student forum. And then ultimately, for each group, I had set also like what we call a small Miro board, where here they were asked to frame a bit their own problem, to design and prototype the communication material. This board was a bit set according to this kind of design thinking approach, where they would have first to understand, and then, I mean, you're probably all well aware of design thinking, so maybe I don't spend too much time on that, but the idea is really to kind of prototype it, and we're also able to like to get back to it and redefine it and recreate something. And all in all, as I said, it was not only discussion with the lecturers and some of the guest speakers, but also with some of their peers, so master students from the University of KwaZulu-Natal, so that ultimately, and also actually some stakeholders from the RUNRES project, so that there is really kind of a process happening, not just a. So ultimately, at the end of the semester, this is how the big mirror board looked like. So a lot of exercise, a lot of like mapping that enabled them to dive into that. And this is the smaller mirror board where you can see like that. For example, the group 4 really dived into all of these steps and brainstormed together until coming with an outcome of it. Now, when it comes to the students' group work and their evaluation, this is a bit the great outcomes that we got from it. So some of the creativity really got used, and I'm kind of happy about that. This one was a poster that is aimed for the kids, and the idea is to, from the school, and the idea is to really focus on what is doing what. This is a poster that is now printed and will be set in the school as soon as the DWAT system will be installed. We said it would be it would be set in the halls of the school, but also in the toilets, so that when the students, they go to the toilets, at least they know that. This is another kind of setting that was done by another group, and it was targeted for smaller school kids. And here it's really how to create and to develop a little mascot, the little rhino, and talk a bit more about the urine diversion toilets and how it's done. And ultimately, for example, this group developed a whole package for more of the municipality community, and a whole kind of toolkit for social media. So this is supposed to be an Instagram advertisement that you kind of scroll down. So this is actually quite cool as well. Ultimately, coming from the students, I think they kind of liked it. We had a great evaluation coming from several students. One of the elements is that the mirror board was stopped working like just the last week. So basically, it didn't stop working, but the license was not taking that many students working at once in that. So that was a bit problematic for us, but ultimately, as it was really the last step of the design work, I asked them to take it more on kind of a PowerPoint step and step out of the whole mirror board session that we had together. The thing is that also many more information has to be structured in a way that the students do not get lost in the wide diversity of guest speakers and topics that we had. But this is something that we will work on. And ultimately, maybe something that I didn't really mention, but the idea was always at the beginning of the session as well to kind of have more of a stretching session online, have a bit like a relaxing cocoon, so that the students can also dive a bit more engaged into the lectures that was about to happen. And I think this also brought a lot of positive feedback. All right, so that's it from my side.